Hello and welcome to this basic maze game tutorial. Today we are going to make a maze game with one level and a win and lose page. We need to start by renaming our project. We then delete the cat and we will start creating our backdrops. If you click on stage and then go to backdrops, you can make your own backdrops. I always use the plain blue sky, as then I can change the color of the backdrop. We use this paint tool and we can then select the color that we would like our background to be. I'm then going to use the rectangle function to draw my maze. I'm again going to change my color, and I also want it to have no backdrop. I can then start drawing my rectangles. So I simply pull them out and this will start creating my maze. And so on. You can create any maze that you would like. I'm going to create this simple maze. This. Once I've drawn my maze, if I realize there is a mistake, I can always go back and use the select tool, and I can make them bigger or move them up and down so that they look neat and tidy. I also need to add a rectangle at the end of my maze in a different color where I want my sprite to get to. Next, I'm going to make another backdrop and I'm going to change the color, and this is going to be my game over page. It looks like I'm not typing anything, but it's just the same color as my backdrop. So as soon as I change the color, I can then see it. Again, I need to use my select tool in order to make it bigger. And I can put it in the center of my page. I will then make another backdrop. And this will be my You Win page. Change the color to black. And I can make it bigger. You can make yours more interesting and add different elements. I'm just going to make two simple you win and you lose pages. So now we have three different backdrops. I'm going to delete this blank one and I'm going to rename my backdrops at the top. So I'm going to name it Maze. This one will be Game Over. And this one will be Win. I now need to choose a sprite that I will use for my game. You can use any sprite. I'm going to use the ball in my game. And I need to change it to my maze backdrop, and I'm going to move the ball to where I want it to start, but as we can see my ball is too big to fit between this maze, so I'm going to reduce the size over here. So instead of 100, let's try 50, and now I can see that my ball can fit within my maze. Your maze could be a lot more complicated and have many more turns. I then need to start coding. Now we can code on the basketball, we can also code on the stage, but today we're just going to focus coding on the basketball. So I am over here and I'm going to start adding my code. Remember, we always start with an event block, and I'm going to use this when green flag is clicked event. And I always wanted to start on my maze backdrop right in the beginning. So when the green flag is clicked, switch to maze. I also always want my ball to start in this position, so I move it to the correct position. I go to motions and I add the go to block so that my basketball always starts at the same position. Next, I want my basketball to move with my mouse. So as I move my mouse around, my basketball will move. I start with a forever block, and I'm going to say point towards my mouse pointer and then move 10 steps. And if I do this and I click play, you will see that it moves quite quickly along my page. If I reduce this number, it will move slower. So depending on how difficult you want your game to be, you can make it faster or slower. As you can see now, my ball just moves along my page, but what I want to happen is if it touches the black, I want it to be game over, and if it reaches the blue, I want to win the game. So I'm going to use the if block. So if it touches black, so I can go to sensing and I say if it's touching color black, and what you can do here is you can select the exact color. So if I go to the bottom, I can go and select that exact color. So if it's touching black, then I want to switch the backdrop to game over. But if it is touching the blue, sensing, if it's touching the blue, I want it to switch backdrop to win. So now if I go, then I have my ball, I can move. If I touch the black, it will go to game over. The only thing is now my ball is still showing, so I want this to hide as it switches backdrop. So under looks, you can find hide. So when it switches to game over, hide, and when it switches to win, I want it to hide. And lastly, I need it to show in the beginning always. So here you can see the full code, and when I click play, I move my ball. And this is a really easy maze, but you can make yours more difficult. And if I get to the blue, it says you win.